Off the back of my introductory video showing off my personal spreadsheet for how I organize my collection in a spreadsheet sense, as well as how I plan for a new year of video games with a lot of flexibility, of course, and showing off my backloggery, I thought today I'm going to show off the actual plan for 2025, talk about how I've kind of reached that conclusion. I did mention last time this is an overly ambitious plan for 2025. I think if this ended up actually being the case, it would be far and away the most games I've ever beaten in a year. And I think this averages about 3.5 hours playtime per day. I think that's too ambitious and probably not likely. Like I said, I base my playtime off of a possible 2 hours to play in a year. But I thought this year I'm going to get a little ambitious, put it up there, and month to month just check in and adjust accordingly. And I recommend doing that with anyone who has this type of plan for themselves as well. If you have enough games that um, instead of just staring up at the shelf and picking the next one, if you are like me and you like to actually try and plan this stuff out and see what you want to play next on a spreadsheet instead of on the shelf, then this may be helpful to you. Um, so I'm going to start first and foremost with what I'm actively playing. So as I mentioned last time, uh, these this section of playing these is so I can filter it and put these right at the top of the list. You'll notice that I have these also listed as starting in the month of January. Some of these are carryovers from last year. Um, but you can see also I've at least organized it to some degree by when I expect to complete them. So uh, with each month kind of descending from there. So games that will take me a little longer or that I expect take a little longer, kind of have some later months as the month that I expect to end. And then I kind of talked about how I do the expected time frame, the hours short and hours long. I think I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into how to effectively search for that in the next video, because I have a friends collection, as you might see down there in the spreadsheet, that I will be doing some in the future. Whether or not they use it, it's just a fun thing for me to do, and I plan to do that for them. So, yeah, we'll take a look at that next time. But for now, let's kind of go through. I do have the games here with me, or at least the ones that are physical copies. So let's just show it up, and I'll kind of talk through each one and my logic for having them on there, or why I want to play them, whatever the case may be. As I said, everything that I have in the collection is a game that I actually want to beat. I don't, I'm not a collector because I collect for monetary value or for any purpose other than this is a game that I actively want to beat, have memories with, have an experience with. So that's where we're at. And I'm going to start right off the bat with Metal Gear Solid 2. I've only ever beaten the original Metal Gear Solid on PlayStation, and then actually last year I beat off of this particular. Is it this one or on the third one, where you actually get access to the MSX versions of Metal Gear? So last year for my birthday, I took the day off and I basically started the day playing that Metal Gear MSX, the original version of it, and worked my way through it over the course of that day. Um, it ended up taking me a couple extra days because I ran into a speed bump, but I got quite far in it, and I finally decided I got to stop messing around. I've had this game forever. Metal Gear Solid 2. Right now, I think I'm about a quarter of the way through, and you, really strange experience, I gotta say, but I really have enjoyed it so far. So this hopefully will be the first game that I tick off for this year, but we'll see how the year progresses. Next up on there is a game that my wife and I have been co-playing together. So we just take turns off the different episodes, and that is the Walking Dead Telltale Definitive Series. So we finished watching the complete AMC show last year, as well as a lot of the sideshows. I think the only sideshow that we have not watched at this point is Fear the Walking Dead, which is just too much for me to want to trudge through at this point. But watch the original show, even World Beyond, all the, Daryl Dixon and Ones Who Live and Dead City, all that stuff. We watched every single thing, and I wanted to wrap it up by finally playing through the Telltale games. We are at the final episode of the final season, and then we'll finish up with the three Little Michonne episodes. So, so far, this has been a really enjoyable experience. Um, it's hard to put into words. Like, I know there are some things that are defined to happen in this game, but even so, a lot of them are shocking, and the way they kind of come about is shocking. So, I've really enjoyed this. I know she's enjoyed this as well. But that is actually, I think I have it listed that it's gonna probably finish in February, but I expect we're going to finish this within the next few days. So, each episode can be up to like, I mean, they're almost like movies. It's like 2 hours plus long. But there's a lot of motivation that we have to finish this because it's just been a really enjoyable series, and, um, you know, want to move on to the next thing. You can actually see here, I kind of mentioned on the previous one. So, if there is a game that I'm going to play with somebody, um, either my wife or my daughter, I do mark that here. So I mark that it's like a co-played game. And then, oh, I did mention this last time, but the generic length is kind of a generic catch-all from the hour short and hours long, depending on, like I said, I generally count like 0 to 20 as like a shorter game, 20 to 40 or 50 or so to be a medium length game, and, on from there, like 60 plus, that's going to be a longer game. The reason I do it, in addition to having the hours short and hours long, is that it just helps you look at the month and say, like, okay, I do like to break it up, and, okay, I'm going to play a bunch of longer games now, or I'm going to play a long game, I want to break it up with a couple shorter games or some medium length games. So for me, it's helpful in that way to categorize them. um, your mileage is definitely going to vary on that. Next on the current active games is Elden Ring. So I am the only other FromSoft game I had played prior to this was Bloodborne, and just being frank, I didn't have a great experience with it. I can talk about that in the future. I'm probably going to do years in review where I'll look back at each year prior and kind of review that year and talk about the games that I played that year, how I felt about them. Ultimately, my goal is to do a complete ranking of every game that I played. So right now, I have put I think I'm just shy of 100 hours on this. This is a game that I did not intend to play after Bloodborne. I kind of thought, okay, I got it. I get what these games are about, but just not really for me. Um, you know, I'll leave it at that. But my brother is a huge fan of the FromSoft games. He's played Dark Souls, Dark Souls 3. I think he tried Sekiro, but uh, when he got a PS5, finally, I got him a copy of Elden Ring because I knew how much he would want to play it. And he basically messaged me and said, um, "This game is awesome, and I would love to do some online co-op stuff with you." And I've never really played a game with him in that way before, and I just thought, all right, the pull of your family, I'll give it a go. Um, even though, excuse that, even though uh, I've put 100 hours, I have struggled a lot with this game. I've kind of found my footing, and, my level of enjoyment has gone up and down on depending on the session. Um, but hey. I think I will. I estimated that I'll beat this in March, but I think I may end up beating this in February, and finally be done. I think I'm on the final area, or one of the final areas of the game. So, hey, maybe it's possible to beat this many games this year because, yeah, I'm actually trucking through, and we'll finish these three at least much earlier than expected. Now, a game that's going to take quite a bit longer, I expect, is Goemon's Great Adventure. This is actually not my copy. This is the friend actually that I'm doing his collection for him, to kind of do a similar. collection breakdown where I list out how long it might take him to potentially play the games. He estimates that he can only play about an hour a day, or will play about an hour a day. So, like I said, that's a big factor in how long you might expect to play through your collection, if that's your goal and if that's what you want to do with your collection. I don't even remember where we are in this game. I listed it as starting this year. We started it sometime way earlier than that. I don't even remember if it was early last year or when exactly we started. I put it out as ending in June because, I don't know exactly when we'll get together and be able to make some progress. So, hopefully we just kind of plug away at it little by little. This is a hard one too because I really usually like to actually, keep track and kind of have the game top of mind when I'm playing through it. And it's been a big challenge on that one because it's been so long. So sometimes, for me personally, at least, I go back and watch some, um, you know, playthrough videos, or at least some cutscenes, or read a description. And for a game like that, it's really hard to do because they're just so strange and odd or whatever. But starting from there, um, when I finish Metal Gear Solid 2, I do have connected up to my CRT. I have the Wii U, which has the Wii built in, and all my Virtual Console games are on there as well. I purchased a lot of Virtual Console games um, when I was playing when I had the Wii. I really loved that. Part of it, look, don't get me wrong, emulating games, playing ROMs, that's what you do. That's totally fine. Um, there's something especially about playing on a Nintendo console and playing with the Virtual Console controller. I love that controller. I think the buttons feel amazing. The D-pad feels amazing. It's one of my favorite controllers ever. Um, to me, it feels fantastic. I know that it's not everyone's number one favorite, but for me, I love that experience. And I have the original Fantasy Star on there from the Genesis. Is it the Mega Master System version? I can't remember, but it's obviously one of the two. So I had that one on there. A RPG that I have long wanted to play, obviously why it's in the collection. So I think after finishing up Metal Gear Solid 2 on that CRT, that will be the next one. I'll try and queue it up near the end of this month, get started, put a few hours into it, and then hopefully, because of its length, if I can kind of plug away, I may be able to end up beating it next month as well. We'll see. Been a while since I played a traditional turn-based RPG like that. I think the last one I did was like Dragon Warrior 2, Trek Quest 2 on Game Boy Color. So we'll just see how that goes. Um, but I'm looking forward to it. I've never played any in the series, and I do love those kind of classic RPGs. Next up is God of War 2. So I played through the original God of War last year. I originally got this because I wanted to play the PS4, PS5 God of Wars, and I do want to have some context for the character and where he's at in his journey and whatnot. So last year I purchased and played through the original God of War. I'm probably just going to play the trilogy. I'm not going to play the PSP games or Ascension. And this was purchased this year, so I could finally get to the next part of the journey. And I'm really just anxious to get to the PS4 ones because that was a game. My brother actually sold his PS4. Sold me a few games from that collection. Like I mentioned, Bloodborne being one of them, and then the PS4 God of War was one of them as well. Yeah, the first one was a pretty fun experience. A little bit difficult in some parts, especially near the end boss, but it gave me enough energy to go like I'm ready to keep going with this journey. So God of War 2 hopefully will be coming up. Can it be done in a month? I think so. Um, I did take some breaks playing the first one, but I think I can juggle that along with Fantasy Star. Now, the big challenge is what I have here, which is also starting two other PS5 games. This is kind of assuming I think that Walking Dead will be done, and uh, Elden Ring may actually be done there as well. So, finally, getting to Astrobot here. I mean, Will this only take me a month? I don't know. I've played through both, obviously the PS5 demo Astro's Playroom and the PSVR of Astrobot Rescue Mission, and got this. It's technically my daughter's copy in a way. Um, it was a birthday present for her last year. She loved Astro's Playroom, and when this game was coming out, couldn't wait to get through and play this one. So she's been, Dad, you got to play it. You got, she's like in the second world or whatever, and absolutely loves it. And I'm really looking forward to playing it, of course, as well. So got that on queue. I think that it will probably take me couple weeks, maybe 2, 3 weeks, playing at the clip that I do and playing a few other games. I think that's a reasonable expectation, but we'll just have to play and see. And then lastly, I think I have this again as a longer one. So starting in February, this is probably going to be late February if I end up doing that, and then finishing sometime in April is Metaphor Refantasio, which I've never played any of the Atlas games, but being that this is unconnected, I have my same mutual friend there, or not mutual, but same friend from the other discussion talking about the collection and the one I'm playing Goemon with, um, is a big fan of the Atlas games. Has played some of the Personas. I have not. And I just thought this looked really awesome, and a perfect way to kind of get back into, you know, or a window into this world, I should say. So really looking forward to Metaphor Refantasio. I think that, uh, yeah, I'll probably. I don't know if I'll be able to stick to exactly that. I know this is a bit of a longer game, um, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. Next is a really short one. I know based off of this that this is going to be quite a short game. I played through the original Echo the Dolphin last year, a experience that is something I'm going to have to talk about in depth in the future. But I had this Sega Genesis collection for PS2, and I do want to play and beat every single one off of it. And Echo Junior is a very short game. Um, I think I have it listed as 10 to 15 hours. I think it might even be shorter. It's a kids game that's packed in with here. I mean, it was literally like meant for little kids where you just explore an ocean level and just uh, pick up a few collectibles and then the level's done. I could probably see myself finishing this one in a few days. And so I do have it here to break up things. I might even put this a little before, maybe back into February, depending on how things go, how much energy I have. But I think this is an easy one to get through. I'll show you all real quick here. I do have a spreadsheet just for this collection because there's so many games on one collection. Uh, I originally did this because I was trying to really just parse out like what games were actually on this collection, especially which ones you could potentially play multiplayer. And while I do keep that information on the overall collection part of the spreadsheet, um, this one just it's just so many games. So you can see these are the ones that I have beaten so far. And then there's a lot to go here. So yeah, I think there's like close to 20 games or something still left. But Echo Junior's right there. About 27 stages I listed out. So I did do research on to see exactly how many stages, how long it would take. But um, yeah, I think this one will be quite a short one. And similarly, actually, right after, because I have the collection connected, I've got Fantasy Star 2, which is on here. So Fantasy Star 2, 3, and 4 are also on here. To me, it's a fine way to play the games. The PS2 controller works serviceably. I haven't had any bad experiences with playing any of the Genesis games on here. And you can see I had beaten a decent handful on the other spreadsheet specific to this disc. Um, yeah, I don't know. This one I think is a little bit shorter than the original or than the first one. And I'd like to knock off a couple in the series this year instead of, playing one and delaying forever and, just never getting there. So I think I have this one earmarked for a late March start, getting into February or getting into April. And we will see how that goes. Mario Kart Wii. Usually Mario Kart games for me are, you know, best played a little bit over the course of a single month, kind of dabbling in. Um, and this is, I think, the only ones I have yet to beat is Super Circuit on Game Boy Advance, as well as this one. And I'm just Mario Kart's always a good time. What are you gonna do? Like, they're really fun games, and I expect this one to be no less. I think I know quite a few people that this is one of their favorites, if not their actual favorite. So yeah, this should be a pretty breezy time over the course of that same time frame into April. Next up, I have a couple shorter games sprinkled in. So you can see I've kind of been playing. I have only one shorter game prior to this. Most games are listed as kind of medium or long length. So to break up some of that, you know, playing and digging some of those longer games. I picked a couple other games I thought would be a little bit shorter. So next up would be my copy of Rad Racer. I'm gonna pull it out here, but I just had to show. This was a Christmas gift, not this past Christmas, but the prior Christmas, from my wife and daughter, and I just love the original Funkoland box that it came in. Um, Funkoland used to be store that was close to me before it became EB Games and then GameStop, and I miss Funkoland. That was a fun place to go to. They had like most systems connected. Um, I think I bought Final Fantasy Adventure there and a bunch of other stuff back in, um, my middle school and high school years, especially. But yeah, we got Rad Racer here. Um, can't remember what I identified as the condition to beat this game, but it should be pretty short. And um, yeah, I'm just, you know, pretty excited to finally play. I haven't had the NES connected in quite some time, so to get to have that connected and play through a couple games will be great. Similar Super Mario Brothers 2, never played through it. Played through Mario 1, played through Mario 3, played through Mario World. I even played Lost Levels, which I had on Virtual Console. I think they have that Wii U version actually put out. That one, another game that the less I say about it right now, the better. Um, but I've never played this one, and I'm really looking forward to it because I know it's so kind of esoteric and unique, and yeah, super stoked about that. On the Wii U as well, which I should still have connected up to the CRT. I've got Final Soldier. I played through Soldier Blade, which I loved. Fantastic shoot 'em up, or shmup as some of the kids say. And I really want to play through some of the others in the series. So I have Final Soldier, and I think what's the other one? Star Soldier, or I'm getting confused and mixing one up. But Final Soldier will be the next one. I have the shoot 'em ups typically, the shmups as a little bit longer because for me, although these games are beatable and doable, and I've beaten quite a few of them, they often take me a many sessions and iterations to get through. I usually play on normal. I don't it if the game seems one TC doable, which means getting through on one credit, um, without continues, um, then I try to do that, but it's often not doable. So anyway, these are kind of shorter games. I don't know how difficult Final Soldier will be, but we'll see. This is a month that's crazy where I claim I'm gonna be like, what is this? Metaphor and one, two, three, four, five, 6 games in a month. I've never ever done that or close to doing that. So no idea if that's doable. Um, but I sprinkled in some shorter games to try and make it doable. So we will see if that ends up being the case. Deracine is next. I have the PSVR connected right now, specifically basically to play Beat Saber. I don't have a PSVR 2. I don't really want to invest in that. And honestly, I really like PSVR, just the plain old original PS4 PSVR. And when I was looking for good games on there, I bought this a couple years back, and I didn't know anything about it being made by FromSoft. I think Miyazaki may be involved in this to some degree. Should be a very short experience. And I'm just, yeah, this one has been kind of on the back burner for all that time. And I think it should be another short one to kind of sprinkle in there and get through. And I'm really looking forward to it. Um, say that a lot about these games, but they're in the collection because I'm looking forward to playing them. Axelay is next, another shoot 'em up that I also have virtually on the Wii U. So my thinking a lot of the time is if there's a genre that I don't play too often, then usually if I play one game, I might have a little momentum to go in and play another of that type of game, as opposed to kind of setting it down and playing it much later. So I kind of thought, I had the PSVR out in our living room, and I have the Wii U back here in this room. So that was my thinking is, um, you know, probably I could play through Final Soldier, then actually here, and then in the main room play through this on the PSVR. I have some consideration of that when I'm juggling what game it is that I'm most interested in playing. All right. But let's keep going here. I've got East 3 Wanders from East. I've got the Genesis copy here. I played through the TurboGrafx version, which I have on of 1 and 2, which I have on Virtual Console on the Wii. And I didn't really have a good way to access 3 on TurboGrafx as well. And I originally had the SNES copy, but I did a little research and found that most people think this is the superior version to if you're going to compare Genesis to SNES. So I really liked 1 and 2. Had a great time with it. Never played any others in the series, though I do have a few more in the collection now, and this is one of them. So yeah, East 3, Wanders from East, looking like another game I'll beat. I gotta say something else. I'm looking forward to it. Finally, we're now into May, by the way. So this is where things get really tricky. The past couple years, I mentioned this. As I've gotten older, I've taken some longer breaks, and this has been no exception. When I typically get to around summertime or just before summertime, May, June, into July, I that's typically when I've taken my first game break. I'm don't know if that will be the case this year. This is kind of, I typically, as much as I love video gaming, I typically will take a break at some point and maybe watch through a handful of movies that I've wanted to watch for a while, or, maybe read something that I have kind of set aside for a while as well. But if I chug through and this plan stays there, next up we'll look to play Breath of the Wild. Finally, as a kid who grew up playing Ocarina of Time, you would think I would have jumped at this right when it came out. And actually, I did buy the Wii U version right when it came out, but pretty shortly after, I think the Switch. Well, yeah, I think the Switch came out, and uh, my wife and I we did buy a Switch pretty shortly after launch, and basically she wanted to play this as a copy of it. She played a little bit of it, but this has been on my back burner for backlog for since then. So you're talking about like 6 7 years or however long it's been. When did this didn't come out in 2017? Yikes. I mean, what can you do? It's this, you only have so much time for video games. I do want to get to this one. I mean, it's why it's in the collection, and I've got it earmarked for finally getting to it in June of this year. I have it taking a couple months because it's a longer game. It's in the middle of summer, and I think that it's more likely than not that if I do start playing it, it's gonna be a long one. Like I have Elden Ring up there. I talked about maybe finishing in February. I think I started it in November, late November, December. I can't remember at this point, but yeah, it's gonna take me a bit. This is a 3DS game here. Now, I bought basically before the 3DS shop closed. I noted they had a couple Spanish versions of games, and I have been speaking Spanish since I was a kid. I've originally fluently, but then I came back to the States from Spain and forgot pretty much most of it, but have slowly worked to get my fluency back to a decent level over time. And I consider myself to be a above average speaker reader of the language at this point. So Pokemon Edición Azul, as you might say. This is I purchased it just so I could play a childhood classic in Spanish and practice that. And it would be right around the time where I might be on the road. So I thought the 3DS is typically a system that I brought with me when I've gone out on the road. Um, and so I thought this should work for that time frame and be a great one to play on the road, you know, uh, experience it in another language. I've mentioned this in my backlog updates for some games, but for a lot of games, if they do have the Spanish language option, at least in the menus, I have often switched those over. Um, Not for every game, but for quite a few of them. So I've really enjoyed that experience, and this will be another step in that direction. I have not had my PS3 connected in quite some time, and I figured at this point, getting into July, a pretty quick one, or what for me I'm hoping will be a quick one, will be Mega Man 9. I have played Mega Man 1 through 8. I did that in a single span where I had the anniversary collection on the GameCube, and I played 1 through 8. Um, Man, it was a crazy time, a crazy experience. Then I bought 9 and 10. I don't have 11 currently, but I bought 9 and 10 on PS3 virtually. So again, I don't have a physical copy here. Um, just like with that Edición Azul for the 3DS. Um, that is another virtual copy. But Mega Man 9, I love the Mega Man series. It's been one of the most fun series to play through, and I can't wait to play that one. I might even connect that one up sooner, depending on how things go. Connecting the PS3 to the CRT, which is my preferred version to play. Some of the older games. I have some games virtually from the PS1 era, as well as some games like this. I played Castle Wolfenstein that way as well. So, um, yeah, that'll require a little bit of a lift moving some stuff back there to connect the PS3. But I don't like having everything connected at once. I know for a lot of people that's a goal, but to me, part of the cadence of playing games that makes it entertaining and fun is, you know, switching it up and you know, having to take one console out and another. It keeps things kind of moving in that way. Getting into August of this year, I've got Dragon Warrior 3. So this would likely be played on the Game Boy player, although I may also play it um, on the Game Boy Advance SP, which I love the SP. I think it's my personal favorite handheld of all time. So many great games you could play. If you get the AGS 101 version, the screen is amazing. Every makes games look great. So yeah, I've only played in the series one, two, which I played the Game Boy Color versions as well, Game Boy Color versions, and four on DS. So I figured this is a good one to kind of wrap that first four game cycle up. I know this does tie in with one and two. So after that, baseball on Game Boy Color. This is one that I played as a kid, and I ran into a store recently. I picked this up within the past 6, 7, 8 months, I want to say. And I just something about Mario on it, and my memory with playing it in a car as a kid. I was like, I don't know how I would consider beating this game. I think um, there you play through like a round of games or something. So maybe if you win them all, I got to look up this, but I think it would be a very short experience on all, but a very nostalgia filled one. I played through Balloon Kid, which was similarly like a very short Game Boy experience, and I did that 2 year, not last year, but the year prior, and really enjoyed it. So hopefully this will be a quick one to get through. Similarly, again, we're kind of in the realm of handhelds here. So you can see, as I know we're getting into summer, I've put some handheld games out there, starting here with that Pokemon game on 3DS. Like I said, I had Mega Man here, which would be a game I would play at home. And then we've got Gravity Rush next. I got the PS Vita as a Christmas present. Again, not this past Christmas, but the Christmas prior. And I played Tearaway over the course of last year, which was my first PS Vita game, and picked up Gravity Rush, which I know is kind of like one of the uh, hallmark games for the system. So I figured, hey, might be on the road around this time frame. The game is not an overly long game from my understanding, so August into September, maybe even a little sooner. Um, that one should be one I can get through in that time frame. And kind of rounding up the Game Boy games and getting in and setting the template for October. Although I typically like to play games that are horror themed getting into October, I thought that I would kind of, you know, preset that or set myself up for it by playing a couple Castlevania games. So I've got Castlevania 2, Belmont's Revenge. I played through Adventure quite quickly, so um, this shouldn't be an exception to that. Dracula X, I know, is quite a difficult one. So you can see I put, even though I think it's like 6 stages or something, it's not a very long one. I do have this as the SNES version. I have a copy of it on the Wii U. Um, it's gonna be a difficult one. I know it has uh, that kind of notoriety to it, so um, it may take me a little bit longer. But we'll see how that one goes. And then finally getting into October, I have held these games off for so long. I have played through Resident Evil Zero many years ago. I played through Resident Evil 7, which was an incredible experience, but a very different kind of experience than the traditional Resident Evil. And I played through the Resident Evil Director's Cut of the release of the original game. But I want to go back, reset the template story wise, and play through this. Finally, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I tried to give it a start and I just couldn't, wasn't in the mood for it. And I thought, you know what, this year, this October, let's make this October about getting through Resident Evil 1, the remake, and Resident Evil 2. Not a remake, or not the remake, but the original version, which I have the GameCube version here. So hopefully that is how this October goes. I also put in there Decap Attack, which is on that Sega Genesis collection. Uh, I could already see the way this month is panning out that I may not get to that one. That is probably an easy one to potentially cut, but it's kind of horror-ish themed 2D platformer for the Sega Genesis. So I don't know. That one's a little dicey. Coming out of that into the last couple months of the year, getting into November, I Metroid Prime. Um, One of my brother's favorites. I have played through it quite deep into the game many years ago and never finished it. I will be starting a new file on this, of course, but man, well overdue to finally play through Metroid Prime. I love Super Metroids in probably my top 10 or so. That's another thing I hope to do with these videos is kind of actually um, create a definitive ranking of like my personal experience with these games. And I do know that Super Metroid is one of the all time greats for me personally, as well as a lot of people's favorites. But yeah, Prime is well due to play. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker should be a short one, and along with Pikmin 4. Um, Both of these, again, this will be on the Switch out in our living room, so I can see these taking about, you know, maybe 3 weeks in total between the two of them, maybe 4 weeks tops. Like I said, I think I have them earmarked here for November and November into December. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Um, Finally, I have had this game as my October or my December game to play forever. So one of the, I'm kind of like most people are. They talk about Final Fantasy VII, Chrono Trigger, and Ocarina of Time as these monumental games from their childhood. I hit all three back to back when I was around the age of 12 to 13. And Chrono Trigger was a game where I was learning. I had somebody teach me about emulation and ROMs at the time, and the only game I ended up ever beating on a ROM was Chrono Trigger. It was a dream to get a cartridge. It was still expensive at the time, even then. Was that eighth grade for me or so? So when I finally had my own job, got my own money, one of the first things that I did was pick up my own copy of Chrono Trigger on Super Nintendo, and I have always thought December, cozy month. I can't imagine a better time to play through this game. And so I've always wanted to finish off a gaming year by, or close to finishing off, in that December time frame, by finally playing through Chrono Trigger for the first time since I was 13 years old. Um, so that is why that is there. And then lastly, Nier. One of my friends has begged me for years now to play Nier Automata, and I have always said I wouldn't play it until I play the first one, which I really want to do. So this will be the first step to finally getting to that journey and hopefully getting to Automata in 2026. Um, and so that will probably be like I start that game at the end of the year. It would be pretty ambitious to finish it over the course of the year. And lastly, I mentioned, a couple games that my daughter and I have files in that we play through off and on together, as well as a personal fitness goal game. We got a couple of Kirby games, Ring Fit there as well. So these will just kind of stay on the list and hopefully will be just kind of popped into from time to time over the course of the year. So, um, yeah, I hope this was an interesting journey. You got to see the games, the plan, how I kind of planned it out in terms of, which system I may have connected at any time. Maybe when I might be out on the road or on vacation, trying to gear things more towards handheld side. And maybe this gives you some ideas for how you might want to plan out your year if you want to do that. I think already looking at it, I can see a few games that are going to be easy to cut. And another thing that I want to kind of wrap this up with is, although I plan this year out, this plan looks great. It all kind of makes sense logically. As I mentioned on my previous video, please, if you do this type of thing, let yourself be flexible to life. Just like, even though this is my plan, I anticipate that this will not be how the year pans out. I do this just to kind of, for me, it's an entertaining thing to do, and I just like to, kind of set the template for how the year is going to go or could potentially go. Will I get to a good chunk of these? I hope so. And if I do get to every single one of these and the year goes exactly like this, it will be the first time um, that a year has ever gone like that. But I'm not really big on new releases, so the only real new release this year that I will probably pick up and maybe work into this would be like Death Stranding 2, maybe Claire Obscure 33, that French JRPG looks. French JRPG sounds weird to say back, but French RPG in the Japanese turn-based style, I guess I should say, looks really, really good, and I've got my eye on those two. I don't know if those will work their way in. Death Stranding 2 might, because I'm a big fan of the first one. But yeah, we'll see how the year pans out, and that should be uh, quite a lengthy video to sit through if you did. So I really appreciate anyone who sat through and heard me talk about the games that I want to play this year, the reason that I want to play them, why they're in the collection, what I think about how long it might take me to beat the games, give you some ideas for how to do that as well. I think next time, like I said, I'll look at my friend's collection and actually, you know, show you all how I do my best to come up with these calculations, estimates, how to figure out how long you play games or plan to play games, or can play games over the course of a year. Like I said, for me, daily, it's about 2 hours a day. Um, for my friend, about an hour a day. And I think that factors in big with your ability to potentially beat the collection. So if that is your goal. Thanks again for watching the video. If you did, really appreciate you sitting through. Take care until the next one.